Yes, sir. So let's start. Hello, everyone. Good evening. We welcome you all in this session. So today we'll be discussing about uh, MTech and MTech Research and MS at IIT Madras and IISc Bangalore. We are with Mr. Amit, sir. Amit, sir, is from IIT Madras MS. Sir, please take over and start.
Yeah, hello. Hi, everyone. So the topic for today's discussion is basically we want to see and analyze what all alternatives we have to existing. Like we know that IITs and IISc are very popular for their MTech programs, but apart from the MTech programs, what other programs do these top IITs and IISc offer so that students who uh, are not in perhaps top 100 or top 200 rank can still avail these programs offered by the top institutes in our country. So I'll start with IIT Madras. So for a GATE qualified student, other than MTech, IIT Madras student can apply to MS by research and direct PhD programs. So these two programs, all the BTech students who have written GATE are eligible to apply for these two programs. And basically, IIT Madras takes admission in any time admission mode. What does this mean? This means that uh, students can apply throughout the year via this generic application portal. But let's suppose, for example, July 2023 admission, the applications received till March 31st will be considered for July 2023. So, which means, let's suppose you would have applied last year in December, but uh, you have written GATE this year, you will still be considered for the July 2023 admission. But remember, the deadline to be considered is March 31st. Okay, and IIT Madras uh, has a generic application portal. This means that there is no department specific application portal here. You can go to this website and uh, you can apply for MS or direct PhD programs offered by computer science department. Okay, and this admission process to take admission into MS and direct PhD happens twice a year. So first cycle is basically in July 2023, and the expected timeline for the second cycle of admission will occur in October 2023. And the programs which are offered under this under direct PhD and MS are these three: MS STRA, direct PhD, and MS project. So STRA basically stands for half-time research assistantship. So under MS HTRA, a student gets stipend directly from Government of India. But in MS project, the amount may be almost similar. That is currently for MS, it is 12,400. The amount may be similar or even higher than STRA, but the stipend or the funding received is not from Government of India. It is from specific government companies or organizations which are basically funding the project. So the fundamental difference between MS STRA and MS project is that in MS STRA, you need not work on any project as such. But in MS project, you would be working along with your research and curriculum. You'll be also spending considerable amount of time on project. That's why you will be perhaps paid more than HTRA in MS project. As far as I know, MS project stipend, I think it starts from 14,000 INR per month. And direct PhD, as we all know, direct PhD, the current stipend for first starting year is 30,000 per month. And in direct PhD, you will be spending at least 5 to 6 years in the institute. Okay, so these three are the programs which a BTech student can apply for. Let's see the criteria for admission for both these programs, MS and direct PhD. So, first of all, there are two factors which are considered for admission into these two programs. First factor is your BTech marks or UG marks. As you can see, you need to obtain certain percentage in your BTech examination, final total percentage of the marks which you have achieved. So let's suppose I consider general category of MS. He or she should have at least 75% in his BTech, 720 GATE CS score in CSE, or 720 GATE score in EC and mathematics. So what this means is, even if you have not written your GATE in CSE, you can still apply to CSE MS branch if you have written GATE in EC or mathematics stream. Okay. And for direct PhD, it's slightly higher because expectation is obviously higher with the students who want to pursue PhD in the institute. So this criteria was taken from last year, 2022, and hopefully this year also it will be around the same. Okay. So if you are qualified based on these criteria, you will be shortlisted for the written examination. Now let's see what is the procedure of admission for IIT Madras. So let's assume you qualify the criteria and you are called for the interviews and written examination to the institute. You need to visit the institute. First step in the procedure is a written test. This written test will essentially be of 3 hours only, and it will be purely based on GATE pattern. And as far as I know, some years, as you know that in GATE, the problems or the questions are jumbled up. But in IIT Madras, sometimes it groups the questions into different subjects, and then it sets up its paper. So it's quite easy for students to write the exam and prepare themselves when they are answering the questions. So I would request the students to keep revising your GATE topics so that you are familiar when you visit the institute for your interviews. So once you have written this test, there's a shortlisting criteria which will be set up by the department. Once you qualify the written test, you'll have to attend the interviews. Now for the interviews, there will be basically 3 panels, and you will have to give the choice of the panels in the ascending order. So in IIT Madras, there are these 3 panels in computer science department. First panel is TCS, theoretical computer science. Second is computer systems, and third is AI, ML, and applications. So before attending the interviews, you will be given a form where you mention the preference of your panel, and you would be conducted interviews in this research area specific panels. So once you give interviews in these panels, before giving the interviews, you need to choose at most 2 of the 3 panels. So let's suppose you chose TCS and computer systems. You will be interviewed in these 2 panels. Okay. So I would request the students to before applying for this MS or direct PhD program or even attending the interviews, please be aware of at least the subjects which belong to each panel. Let's suppose I take the example of theoretical computer science. So theoretical computer science, the subjects which basically belong here are data structures, algorithms, TOC. So all these subjects belong to TCS. So let's assume you choose TCS. So please be prepared to answer the questions belonging to those subjects. Let's suppose you choose AI, ML, and applications. I know that AI and ML are not the subjects in GATE, but still you might be questioned with the topics on linear algebra, probability, and statistics, because these 2 are the subjects in GATE 2. And let's suppose I take the example of computer systems, OS, CN, and the computer organization architecture. These are the subjects which belong to computer systems panel. Okay, so this is basically the procedure of IIT Madras admission to MS and direct PhD programs. And once you attend the interviews, the results won't be published on the same day. It might take 10 to 15 days, after which the department will publish the result of the selected candidates on their website. Remember, the result is published on the department specific website and not the institute specific website. Okay.
Sir, one question is there. So this
Yeah,
written test is like MCQ or some theory subjective exam? How they
yeah.
conduct
So
it?
yeah, so MCQs in CSE, sorry, this written test in CSE department are either MCQs or numerical based. These are not at all subjective. You
Oh,
will not be given this opportunity to write the answers. But one point I want to mention here, in
yeah.
MS written exam, there are two papers actually. First paper is the MCQ or numerical based, very similar to GATE exam. Second paper is just one question. In that one question, they ask you to either write an algorithm or to explain something in detail. The idea of that paper is not to judge whether you are right or wrong. The idea is how do you approach the problem. So the question in the second paper will be relatively tough, and I don't think many of the students will be able to answer considering their BTech background. But all is that is required is how they approach the problem. But one thing I also want to mention here is that the second paper may or may not be provided. This depends based each year they vary. When I gave the exam, there was no second written question paper. But when I was at the institute, I saw some years the second written test paper was also provided, which had just one subjective question. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Uh, Now let's go through what an MS program has to offer. What does it actually mean, and how is it different from the traditional MTech program? So in traditional MTech program, you would actually spend 4 semesters at the institute. Essentially, it means 2 years. Once your 2 years are complete, you'll be graduated from the institute, and 8 courses plus one project you have to do. But this MS program is very different from MTech, wherein you have to do very less number of courses as compared to MTech. Actually, in IIT Madras, you have to complete a minimum of 5 courses. And please note that there is a difference between MTech and MS, that in MS, you need to achieve a threshold CGPA set by the department. It can be 8.0, it can be 7.5. Now, let's suppose you did 5 courses, but you were not able to achieve 8.0 CGPA. You need to do the sixth course, and best of the sixth course to achieve 8.0 will be considered. So, this threshold CGPA requirement must be met by the candidates while they are undergoing this MS program. Coming to the duration of this program, it typically takes 2.5 to 3 years. Now, this 2.5 to 3 years has been considered. This takes into account the time you need to sit for placements too. So 2 years, typically you uh, study the courses, do research. 0.5 years to 1 year extra will require to either to publish the paper or to sit for placements. So that's why it roughly takes 2.5 to 3 years. But if you are extraordinary, you might even complete in 1.5 to 2 years. It depends. You can come in and straight away do the 5 courses in one semester and spend the rest of your 1 year in research. That is very much possible. But I have taken the average case, that is 2.5 to 3 years. Now, in MS program, from day one you enter the institute or to start to pursue this program, you will have a guide assigned to you. A guide will be essentially the professor of the department, and the professor or the guide will have some expectations which you must fulfill to be eligible for the degree. Either you should publish a conference paper obviously in a reputed conference, or showcase a publishable work in your thesis that may lead to conference paper, or your guide thinks that it is good enough for your thesis to be eligible for the degree. So this is the extra thing which is different from MTech or BTech, where you need to spend considerable amount of time doing literature surveys, studying papers, uh, 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 proving results, and then eventually publishing a conference paper or writing a publishable work in your thesis. So this expectation differs from professor to professor. Some professors, specifically if I refer to theoretical computer science panel, they don't require a conference paper. But if you go to panels like machine learning and applications where the conference papers are much easier to achieve, obviously the professor would expect you to publish a paper before graduating for the degree. Okay. Coming to the most important thing, placements. So most companies that recruit from the CSE department have no restrictions on their degree. Whether you have BTech, MTech, MS, PhD, it doesn't matter. Actually, all the students from all the degrees, all the degree programs, whether it's UG, PG, or doctorate, sit together for the qualifying examinations for each company. Now, when I say most companies, every year there have been instances where few companies they don't allow MS or PhD people. So specifically, I would like to call out here, like in 2019, Oracle company didn't allow CSE MS students, but they allow CSE MTech students. In 2020, I remember Microsoft didn't allow CSE MTech students, CSE MS students, sorry, but they allowed CSE MTech students. But it depends. What is the requirement of each industry who is visiting the campus? But rest assured, I have seen people getting a job, a very good job, and performing much, much better than MTech students and getting placement on the day one of the placement season. So I have seen, personally, I feel MS students perform much better in the interview rounds as compared to the MTech students. So even if one or two companies, they don't allow MS students, you should not be sad because there will be a lot more companies to apply to. Okay. So I hope the MS program on IIT Madras, all questions and queries are answered.
Yes, sir, it's crystal clear, and thank you. Thanks a lot for your, insightful talk on this. We can move ahead.
Yeah, okay. So the next institute which I will cover is another prestigious institute called Indian Institute of Science, which is in Bangalore. So apart from MTech programs, traditional MTech programs, these two degrees are offered, namely MTech Research and Direct PhD. So notice here the degree program of MS by Research in IIT Madras is named as MTech Research in IISc. So again, please notice the application deadline is March 26th. So please hurry up if you haven't yet applied. Again, as IIT Madras, here also we have generic application portal, not department specific application portal where you can apply. Notice that the application process, in contrast to IIT Madras, here occurs once a year. So if you lose this opportunity this year, again, you have to wait for one more year to apply to IISc. Now, third important thing is there are two departments in IISc which a computer science student is eligible for. First one is CSA or CS, simple, Computer Science and Automation. It is a very old department in IISc. A new department has been recently set up, but still it's really good in terms of the research and the domain which they are capturing. It is called CDS, Computational and Data Science. So please remember that when you apply to these two programs, specifically apply to both of these departments. Please don't miss out on any of these two. Okay, and as in IIT Madras, here also the typical duration for MTech research is 2.5 to 3 years. And direct PhD, as usual, it takes 5 to 6 years. Okay, let's see the procedure. So I don't have the exact criteria for IISc because every year they change their criteria and they don't publish it on their website. But as far as I know, the criteria for admission for IISc, the cutoff gate score is usually above 720. And once you qualify this cutoff, now this cutoff is decided every year based on the number of students applied and the gate scores they have achieved. and based on that, IISc decides what is the cutoff score every admission season. Once you qualify that cutoff score, you will be called for the written test, which will be again based on gate pattern only. But remember, this IIT Madras gate written test is of 3 hours. In IISc, the written test is just of 1 hour. It is a short test, but I felt that the written test of IISc is little tougher than of IIT Madras. The questions are little tougher and it's more mathematical oriented. So please focus more on mathematics like linear algebra, probability, if you want to appear in the written test in IISc. Now, once you qualify the written test, it will be of 1 hour short written test. On the same day, you will be asked to wait for half an hour and the result will be published on the same day. And once the result has been published and the students who have qualified the written exam will be called for the interviews. Now, mind you, before you sit for the written test, you will be taken your preferences for the panels. As in IIT Madras, here also in IISc, there are research area specific panels. Now, as I said in my previous slide, there are 2 departments, right? CDS and CSA. Each department, you have to write individual tests. And please don't worry, these 2 departments usually schedule their interviews on separate dates or separate timings so that it does not clash. So if you apply to both of these institutes and if you qualify both of their criteria, you will have to attend 2 different interviews in these departments. And each department has its own research panels. In CDS, if I remember, the panels are termed as lab, like Mars lab, VASL lab, these type of labs. And each lab, as in IIT Madras, covers a domain like theoretical domain, system domain, or ML domain. Similarly, in computer science and automation, I remember there were 3 panels in CSA2, 3 TCS, theoretical computer science, systems, and machine learning. So you will be asked to choose your preference for the panels and you will be interviewed accordingly. As I mentioned earlier too, candidates are expected to be aware of the panels and prepare the relevant subjects accordingly. Before, let's suppose you applied for these institutes and you got selected for attending the interviews, please go through their websites, see what all panels they have, and prepare the relevant subjects accordingly. This is very important. You can't expect to choose TCS and not good in algorithms or TOC. That won't be accepted once you attend the interviews. Okay. Now let's go through the research program or the degree program what IISc offers. So in IISc, you have to complete a minimum of 3 to 4 courses. I think it's 4 in CDS and 3 in CSA. And also, you should also achieve a threshold CGPA as in IIT Madras set by the department. The expectation is same. You should publish a conference paper or showcase a publishable work in your thesis to be eligible for the degree. Graduating students, typically, they get placed in top IT industries, R&D companies, but there have been instances where the MTech research students, they pursue PhD in top universities in India or abroad. Okay, and I would say that IISc has a lesser placement in terms of placement. The number of companies which visit IISc is comparatively lesser than IITs because IISc is considered to be a research institute. But rest assured, since the number of students who get admitted to IISc is much lesser than the IITs, the number of companies still will be a lot as compared to the number of students who will actually apply for the placements. Okay. So I hope IISc degree program information is clear.
Yes, sir. It's very clear, sir. There is one question.
Yeah.
The question is that Is it like they mail the specific syllabus for written in MS program? Someone asking.
Yes, specific syllabus. Okay, let me cover this. So in terms of syllabus, right, as I already mentioned, the written exam, it has no syllabus. Please consider the entire syllabus of GATE to be asked in the written examination, both in IIT as well as IISc. All the subjects which are there in GATE, you should be thorough before you attend the written examination. Now, considering the panel interviews, you won't be emailed the specific subjects which belong to panel, but I'm sure when you see the panel names, as I explained in IIT Madras panel names like TCS, Systems, AIML, you will be able to map your BTech subjects to each panel. So, and rest assured, you won't be asked questions which are not there in your GATE or BTech curricula. But one thing, as I mentioned, let's suppose you are good in algorithms, you should consider applying to TCS panel. Let's suppose you are good in linear algebra and probability, you should consider applying to machine learning panel. If you are good in computer organization and architecture, computer networks, OS, compiler design, you should considering applying to systems panel. Yeah, there is no syllabus as such which is emailed to the students, but definitely students are informed about the panels or interview panels which are available in the department. So that way students should be able to map the subjects to each panel.
Nice. Yeah. So any more question, Mr. Himanshu?
No, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So how was the session?
Great, sir. Great.
Yeah. So it's still IGC work is underutilized, Himanshu. Now you will be realizing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I request you to share with your friends and college mates. Okay. Definitely, we have a long journey to travel. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, sir. So Amit, sir, any other points? Yeah. Please mention.
Yes. Yeah. So I have covered IIT Madras and IISc Bangalore in detail, but I know there are other IITs too in the country. But why I haven't covered each IIT in specific slide is the number of students which get admitted to these IITs other than IIT Madras and IISc are very less. So let's suppose I take example of IIT Kanpur or IIT Delhi. They hardly take 2 to 3 students each year in this MS programs. But anyways, you should definitely apply to these institutes too. So for reference, I have mentioned that IIT Delhi, in IIT Delhi, the CSC department, MS program is termed as MSR and admission occurs twice a year. In IIT Delhi, in IIT Kanpur, this program is termed as MS by Research, same as IIT Madras. But in IIT Kanpur, remember there are 2 departments which you should apply. One is CSC, Computer Science and Engineering, and second is Cyber Security. CSCYS, I think. Yeah, CSC and CYS. So here also admission occurs twice a year. Third is IIT Bombay. Here also it is named as MS by Research in CSC. Here also admission occurs twice a year. In IIT Hyderabad, this is termed as 3-year MTech program. It is same as MS by Research, wherein you have to publish some work, and here also admission occurs twice a year. But let me inform you that the admissions portal for these institutes closes really soon. I remember IIT Delhi, it must be closing in few days. So please apply to these institutes as early as possible to not miss out on any of the dates. Okay, and other than IISc, all of these institutes take admissions twice a year, but in the first cycle of the year, that is the spring season, that is now, the number of students are admitted are at least double than what are admitted in the December cycle. So there are more chances, and obviously there are more number of students which apply in the first cycle. Okay, so that's all I had.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. it is the fabulous. I really impressed. You delivered very well, sir. Yeah. So hopefully this will be helpful to many IGCians and apart from non-IGCians students also. And we will come up with a few more sessions based on students' interest, sir. And this year we will be also having one session soon on how to go ahead, how to prepare for GATE CSE for 2024. You know, that time we will meet again, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'll just ask if any question. So those who are watching on YouTube, if any question, we can answer. Otherwise, we will wind up. I think, sir, no question. So we can wind up. Yeah. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure.